Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Stochastic.com MLB strategy show. Dave Loughran and Matt Belman. Guys, weird kind of weird slates. 3 games on the early, 7 game on the main, but you have NBA tonight, right? So like game 1 of the finals, Millie Maker for the showdown. So essentially the slate sizes, they're different, but the prize pools are the same pretty much. Like well, I should say top prize. Like first place is 25K for the early and for the main, for the relay throw. For the main, it's $125,000 prize pool. For the early, it's 100. But if you look at them, everything's pretty similar. Like all of the smaller contests are smaller than usual. So yeah, we'll hit on both of them. I figure why not? We'll hit the 3. Look over pitchers and stacks, run the sims on that, then do the same thing for the main slate and make it work. So Nick Thompson in chat, morning, sin bin. Yes, well, hello to the sin bin. My friends, atone for your sins. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Goes a long way for us, and we appreciate you greatly for it. Also, you want to listen in podcast form, we're out there. Matter of fact, if you click on the description, you'll see it down there, a link to essentially everything that we have. So, you know, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, podcast, but Apple Podcast, Spotify, we got you covered. And leave a comment down below if you're listening or watching after the fact. What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Been a minute since we've gotten on a show together, like a week. So happy to be on here talking some MLB with you. Yeah, I know that you're not a huge fan of these 3-game slates. I don't really mind them, but I hate it when there's like 2 games that start like today at 1 and then the other one doesn't start for a couple hours later. It's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah, me neither. Actually, not a big fan of it, but sometimes it works. Like, I mean, hell, I was just thinking about this from the other day. We had the 3-game slate where it was just all bad pitching. You remember that last week? I think it was a Thursday, as a matter of fact. And Oakland was on this slate for sure. Because I remember someone going in chat, they're like, you know, why am I getting Hogan? Why is the Sims giving me so much Hogan Harris? Hogan Harris ended up having, you know, like I think the best start of anyone on that 3-game slate, and you needed him. So, you know, rely on the tools. We'll look at leverage spots and all of that, and we'll make it work. Jake DeWitt said, let's make it a 2-hour shit show and take us up to lock. Yeah, I can't do that. I was going to ask Matt if he gets into like ancient archaeology and the Anunnaki and stuff like that, but maybe we can save that for another time. How familiar are you with that stuff?
Not overly familiar. I like ancient archaeology stuff, like looking at it, but I don't claim to be any master of knowledge on that stuff at all.
No. So you don't believe like the Anunnaki created us and implanted DNA into us for us to serve them willingly and happily? Oh man, wait till one day when we have time. Shit is wild. I love that stuff. I do. I really do. I go into some deep rabbit holes with all that nonsense. There's a channel out there called the Y Files. Guy does a phenomenal job. I'd recommend it. They don't sponsor this show. I don't see why he would, but it's called the Y Files. If you're into all of that stuff, like ancient archaeology and, you know, aliens and stuff like that, many of this stuff towards the end ends up being disproven, but this guy can spin a tale, Matt. And if you're like looking to kill 30, 40 minutes and just listen to something fascinating, better than any shows out there.
Okay, I'll have to dabble.
The Y Files. Shouting him out. He does a great job. Bug Boy, Laffy on acid would be scary. It's probably the only drug I've never done, and I won't.
Same.
Yeah, I won't. I'm scared of it, man. Scared.
I always, I always heard about people, again, I've done basically everything under the sun, but I always heard about people that would have like acid flashbacks or whatever, and that always just scared me off it.
Well, I know people that never came back from it.
Okay, so yeah.
And I don't mean like stuck in an interminable, never-ending trip, but I mean, since they did it, I can say verifiably they were never the same person.
That's a shame.
I played in a lot of bands when I was younger, and the singer had done it like a heavy, heavy dose, and he did it multiple times over the course of a month. I didn't recognize, he wasn't the same person afterwards. And that type of stuff very much scared me because, I don't love everything about myself, but I certainly don't hate it. And I wouldn't want to and my wife and kids one day are just like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
That's no good. That's no
For
good.
me also, I don't know if you were like this, like I took mushrooms a bunch when I was younger. I never really liked them. Like I did them when they were there, but I had a couple bad trips. So like was never a huge fan of them. So like, why was I even going to go to the next step?
I don't know. It's waves for me. It was a really euphoric, amazing wave, and then just pure panic. I had some good experience. I remember like sitting in the basement at my buddy's house watching Chappelle Show, thinking I was in the studio audience. And that was fun. But I also watched the dog fall off a balcony 2 stories up while on a heavy dose of mushrooms. That was no good. Luckily, he landed in the gutter and survived. I actually fact-checked that with some friends to make sure it actually happened. I also watched a friend of mine who put a 1/4 ounce of like these very good mushrooms in tea, crushed it, and then drank 6 Molson Triple X, fell down a flight of cement steps, cracked his head open. So I haven't done them since then. I was young, and those type of things will scar you pretty bad, man. Like that type of seeing something like that is like horror movie in real life, and since then, no, I'd microdose. But
I was just about to ask you about microdosing. Like, I've never done it. Like, it's just fascinating to me that it's a thing now, considering how much has changed. You could just look at like marijuana, though. I mean, like how prevalent it is now. Not saying it wasn't prevalent before, but just, it's legal everywhere. I remember my first year at college. I went to college down south. I got arrested for having like under a gram on me. I had to go to the whole diversion program, the whole 9 yards. And now there's like 3 dispensaries right by my house.
Oh, it's everywhere. Yeah. Everywhere. Crazy thing is like acid was discovered accidentally.
I don't know the origin of that.
It's a good story. Anyway, let's dive into it. Sorry to bore you guys with all of this, but it's time to talk some baseball. And let's do it. Yeah, Philip, Billy Carson was talking. I heard it on Jerry. That's what made me think about it. I mean, I've always liked that stuff, but Billy Carson's super interesting. He was just on Flagrant 2 as well, although those guys annoy me. Anyway, so Danny Lewis. Anyway, early 3-game slate, Matt, is pretty. I don't want to say it's straightforward, but there are a couple of spots that are going to jump out to you, I think is fair to say, right? Like if you're just looking at pitching out of the gate for this early one, Brian Wu, 45% owned against Oakland. We know that they kind of survive on power. They've been better at home than they have on the road, but they're also more powerful against lefties. So I don't hate this spot against Wu at all. And then Bybee against Cleveland. I will say though, looking at ownership here and just first look, right? Because we're kind of taking our first foray into this slate. We're going to talk about JP Sears against Seattle too at 5,600. I actually think I like Brian Wu the most.
I don't hate that. For me, I don't really think any of these guys look drastically different. I think Bybee probably looks the best just because of his strikeout upside. He's also getting a crazy amount of ownership. Wu is in a really good matchup in a great park. I don't like him as much as I would if this game were at night, but obviously limited options. I don't know, man. Like, I could see why you'd have Wu as your top guy, but I wouldn't think anyone's crazy for having Bybee as their top guy, or even Sears at that price. Just not sure what you can do with the salary today. And then even Kikuchi, like he's been the best pitcher on the slate. All these guys look kind of similar to me.
Kikuchi scares the hell out of me on this slate.
Yeah, for sure. Baltimore is just really, really good, but they are a lot better against right-handed pitching.
Yeah. But they've got some really powerful right-handed bats.
Yeah, maybe I should say a lot of their lineup sets up better against lefties, but you're right. Go ahead.
Hold on a second. I think you've got it backwards. I'm pretty sure Baltimore is the by far best team in the league against left-handed pitching. I'm almost.
Do I?
I'm pretty. Hold on. I'm going to pull it up right now. Yeah, 133 WRC plus, number one in baseball. 354 WOBA, and ready. Here's the kicker. Get ready for this, dude. 205 ISO against left-handed pitching this season is astronomical. To put that into perspective, like how much power and pop this team has had against lefties this year. Oakland is a 192 ISO, which is crazy. And then the next closest is 176. So yeah, they have some strikeouts, 24% K rate, but they have dismantled left-handed pitching so far.
Yeah, they switched their lineup around a little bit today too. Jordan Westburg hitting leadoff. Yeah, I just had that flipped around. That's my bad. But you're right, Kikuchi, very, very scary. That said, he's been the best DFS pitcher on this slate. Kind of surprised that his ownership is like right there with Sears and Wu, considering the price and the spot. But again, there aren't like that many expensive bats to get to. And you know, one of them, Bobby Witt, is facing Bybee, so you can kind of pick and choose there. Yeah, I think you can poke holes in every pitcher, but at the end of the day, I kind of see your point about an 8,200 Wu here.
And yeah, Jake, so it is Bybee. I think probably the reason for that, because Logan Allen was supposed to be the long reliever yesterday anyway. So I think they just said, all right, instead of let's just go to Bybee, he's got the rest, right? So why not? Einsteinium, what's good, fellas? Thanks for the super chat, man. Is Povich the guy today? No ownership against the Toronto team who appears to be over-owned. He is interesting. He's definitely interesting. There's no doubt about that. But the thing that stands out to me is, one, you know, you're bringing this guy up. We have absolutely no idea what to expect out of him. 32% K rate, I believe. That's what I saw at AAA. And he's been good. The thing about him, and he is a lefty. If you go on DraftKings, they don't even have his handedness on there yet, which is wild. Toronto against lefties, what an odd team, Matt, because they've produced no power against lefties this year. They have a 92 WRC plus, a sub 300 WOBA, but their strikeout rate is one of the lowest in the league, which scares the hell out of me when you're talking about these guys making their first career start at the major league level. It's like, yes, you're facing a team that hasn't performed well against lefties, but also doesn't strike out. How deep do you go into this game? He's also 7,800. So he's not that cheap. Povich is $400 less expensive than Wu, $600 less expensive than Bybee today.
I'm like kind of surprised he's not getting more ownership. He's been phenomenal. I mean, is it though? Like, he's the second cheapest pitcher on the slate. Like, I understand you're like paying for the unknown here, but when I looked at this slate, like just from a outsider type view, I was kind of convinced that Povich would be really popular and Blue Jays bats would not be. It's the other way around. Sometimes I'm just wrong. And there I was for sure wrong. People are seeing a young lefty. This Blue Jays team reminds me a lot of San Diego. They're not even as good as San Diego, but they profile so good against left-handed pitching. They just haven't gotten it done. This has been a problem with Toronto for a couple years. Their lineup, again, is good on paper against left-handed pitching. They haven't been. A lot of their proven guys are having down years. Povich, for my money, and I know we don't have any major league sample size for him because he hasn't pitched in the majors yet, as far as his minor league numbers go, I think you could make a case he's got the highest upside of any pitcher on this slate.
That's wild.
I mean, I know Toronto doesn't strike out a lot, but again, I think you can poke holes in basically every pitcher on this slate. Like we've seen Bybee very up and down this year. Brady Singer's underlyings are a lot worse than his actual numbers. We talked about Kikuchi. Wu is good, but not a huge strikeout guy. Hasn't been in the past. And day games in Oakland obviously play a little bit different. He also isn't stretched out as probably most of the other pitchers on this slate. I don't know about Povich here. I would assume he's fully stretched out. And his K rate and pedigree in the minors, I mean, again, like, do I think he's the highest scoring pitcher on the slate? Probably not. But I don't think you're crazy to just plant your flag there, especially with the ownership Toronto's getting.
But to be fair, and look, I'm not going to push back on you. If that's where you're at, that's where we're at. Like when I look at, Tanner Bybee and Wu and those guys, if I wanted to compare their AAA numbers to someone like Povich, they're going to look very, very similar, and they've been starting in the league for quite some time. Like this guy is like Bybee AAA 31% K rate, Wu in the minors like 34% K rate. So what? I don't know. We can say he's the second cheapest pitcher, but he's also like not really. He is, but he isn't. Like technically he is. He's $2,200 more than Sears and only $600 less than Wu. I guess if you're saying this is purely an ownership play, I can understand that. I like Toronto more than Povich today.
Yeah, no, I think the first point you made is very, very well taken. Like Bybee and Wu were also dominant in the minors. Why would I expect Povich to be as good as them in his first start? Frankly, I think you're right there. And as I said going into this slate, I like Toronto against an unproven Povich. I thought he would be getting some love. He's not. I think it's just an ownership play, as you kind of just went on about.
What's their total today? 4.5. Okay. I honestly kind of like Baltimore bats too. I'm a fan of Kikuchi. Like he's been good to us this year. But I also think Kikuchi's the type of guy that you pick your spots with. And maybe he goes out there and mows down this Orioles team. It's entirely possible. He hasn't given up a ton of power this year, which is, a dramatic improvement from the last few seasons where home runs were a real issue. I mean, this is a guy that, throughout his MLB career is like a 1.5 home run per 9 guy, right? So he's definitely limited that, but there's an aspect of this matchup that just really is concerning. And, he's coming off a spot where he got blown up by Pittsburgh. The game before that, he got blown up by Detroit. A couple real rough starts in a row. The swinging strike rate is down. If that continues today, Kikuchi's in for a really long afternoon.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. And I know you've been on Kikuchi a bunch this year. I mean, going all the way back to the beginning of the season. So I'm with you. I think that, again, I'm kind of surprised that he's getting the ownership. I ultimately think Bybee and Wu will be the chalk combo. It sounds like that's where you're at, and I have no arguments with it. I will bring in Brady Singer. Like, again, pitching way over his head. You take a look underneath the hood, and his underlying numbers are a lot worse than his actual numbers, but pitching's weird. Doesn't mean he's gonna regress today. It's a tough matchup in Cleveland, but he's coming in with even more leverage than Povich. And on these 3-game slates, ownership just matters that much more. So I don't really like Singer here, but he's got the same top pitcher percentage as Kikuchi, getting 16% ownership compared to Kikuchi's 38. Something to at least think about.
Oh, I don't hate it. I definitely don't hate it. Singer's
especially
really
if you don't like Kikuchi. You don't even like Kikuchi today. So for sure.
Yeah, look, Cleveland doesn't strike out at a high clip at all, but they've also been a lot better against lefties than they have against righties. So
yeah. And I'm just going to say, when we talk about these pitchers, like, you have to also consider the context of the slate. We don't need a massive score from Singer here, probably.
Probably not. No. He's been solid. Does he have electric, elite strikeout stuff? No, but it's been good enough. I mean, what's his K rate at this year? Probably like 23%, 24% maybe.
I think it's 25%, the highest it's been in his career.
Okay. It's good. Solid. Yeah, 25%. 25% K rate. And like all the underlying numbers, obviously he's going to be, worse than the 2.63 ERA, but still a 3.33 xFIP. Mostly looks good. He doesn't allow power. He's really never allowed a lot of power. I don't hate it. And you look at the Sims too. Jordan's got it up on the screen. Our highest exposed pitcher right now is Brady Singer. So there's that. Lowest is Povich, but we have a lot of Kikuchi up there as well. I mean, clearly just a leverage play. It's got to be, but I won't lie to you when I say that I'm even a little bit surprised that Kikuchi is getting 37% ownership.
Yeah, I am too. Again, when the actual slate starts, won't be surprised if Bybee and Wu end up, significantly more owned than Kikuchi. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And I just want to go back to your point on Povich. I just think it's worth repeating what you said about Bybee and Wu, because a lot of people, and I just did this, get enamored with the shiny new toy, when in reality, I just threw out everything Wu and Bybee did in AAA or in the minor leagues, because it's not, it's what have you done for me recently? What have you done for me lately? So I just want to reiterate, I think that point was very well taken.
Hey, also, maybe I'm just looking through things. I'm willing to go back and on stuff and see where I've led myself and everyone else astray. That Baltimore implied total is a lot lower than I thought it would be.
I don't see anything really different with their lineup that would do that.
I mean, it's around 4.
What'd you expect, like 4.5?
Yeah. Yeah. Really did.
Yeah, I think it's just a respect to Kikuchi thing.
Yeah. Like under 4.5 runs for Baltimore is minus 160. So yeah, there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, I'm even seeing over 3.5, like very juiced to the over, but yeah, that is a little bit odd.
Yeah, I think they're around 4. It's right around 4. I don't know. I still have some interest in Baltimore. I mean, what about you guys? What about you guys in chat? Is it, Kikuchi? Is it Singer? Is it Brian Wu? Is it Tanner Bybee? I don't disagree with you, Matt, that they're all pretty similar. I think that the really interesting one, because I really think that when you're looking at price points, Kikuchi all the way down to Povich they're not identically priced, but they're pretty similar, right? Like there's a $1,200 difference between the 1st and 5th highest priced pitcher. And then JP Sears is just completely on an island by himself. Look, he's not great. We all know that. But he's been pretty good at home. He's been fine at home. The issue is the strikeouts have not been there. At 5,600 though, against the team that does strike out, I think it's wild to think that Sears is not viable today. And we have 36% in the Sims as far as exposure goes. 5,600, if you're looking to load up on the expensive bats, and there are some expensive hitters on this slate, Sears is going to be, Sears is your only option, but I don't think it's a crazy one.
I don't even think it's a bad one, like let alone crazy. We've used Sears a bunch in spots like this when he's been too cheap on day slates at home. That same situation applies here, and there are no other pivots. So I don't love the spot. I don't love Sears as a pitcher, but we don't have any other options that are cheap. We don't love the expensive options. And there are, like you said, expensive bats. Like if you want to stack the Guardians against Singer, who are definitely in play, you're going to need to concede somewhere. I think conceding an SP2 is a more than viable place to do it.
Yeah, and we know Seattle's better against lefties than they are against righties, but they still have the 2nd highest K rate in baseball against left-handed pitching, right? they're still the second highest strikeout team in the league against lefties.
This team just strikes out against everyone.
Yeah. Jordan, can you go to stack exposure for the early? Wow, so we really aren't getting much Baltimore, huh? We really aren't. I mean, we're getting a lot of Seattle, which I totally understand. I think Seattle and Sears, the two are not mutually exclusive. You can easily play both of them.
Yeah, you can even play, like, this is definitely the type of slate where you can play Sears and a Seattle bat or two in the same lineup with only 3 games.
Because Seattle's another one of those teams that kind of thrives when the power's happening. When it's not, they're just striking out.
Mm-hmm.
What sort by 3-man exposures, Jordan? Looks like it's all really closely grouped together. Yeah,
We've seen
Matt,
so many. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say we have 5 teams between 9 and 13% 3-man stack exposure. Cleveland, Seattle, Baltimore, Kansas City, Oakland. Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm just thinking about Sears and something you've been talking about all season. Like, how many just random, decent to okay pitchers that don't strike out a ton of guys just have amazing starts against Seattle? Seems like anyone who faces them, thinking about a guy like Brandon Pfaadt, who I like, hasn't shown a ton of strikeout upside, goes in and strikes out 10 Mariners. There's been countless examples of that all season.
It's nonstop. It is nonstop. What about Joey Estes literally yesterday?
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Did you see what his line was?
I know he had like 5. No, I didn't even see what he ended with. I'm sure it was very good.
6 1/3 innings, 5 strikeouts, 0 runs, 1 hit. Like, it's amazing, dude. All right, let's just say like we were completely siloed off from everything else, and every day, we do this show, and you guys hang out and watch this show. We don't see anything about Seattle pitching. All we see is how Seattle's offense performs each day, right? Like, or all we see, is how pitchers perform against Seattle. Is there a single person in here that thinks they are a above 500 team, that they are a playoff team? Is there a single person that would see how pitchers perform on the daily from a fantasy points perspective against the Seattle Mariners and think, oh, you know what? The Seattle Mariners, that's a good baseball team right there.
I don't know how you could, except for we know their pitching staff is phenomenal.
But I'm saying, we didn't know that.
Then there's no way. You'd think they were the worst team in baseball.
You think they were the worst team in baseball. I mean, which is also funny because, like, okay, so you look at their runs scored, 235 runs scored this year. They've scored less runs than the Rockies and the Pirates. And they scored less runs than the Nats. Isn't that amazing, dude?
Yeah, like they're not even good. I know they're in first place in their division, but I think this team is one of the biggest underperformers of the entire season, considering how good their staff is, and their lineup isn't bad. They just can't get out of their own way.
For sure. And guess what? They're 8-10 over their last. They're 8-2 over their last 10. It's amazing. It's amazing because they've allowed 228 runs on the season. One of the best marks in the league. It's incredible, man.
Yeah, you know what? I said they weren't good, and you watch them, and sometimes you get that takeaway, but they are 35-28 despite all this. So, as Parcells used to say, you are what your record says you are.
No, well, their pitching's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. Kirby, Gilbert, Wu, Miller. Who's the other one I'm missing? The other
Castillo.
Well, yeah, thank you, Luis Castillo. That's a crazy rotation, man.
Yeah, I've been saying it. I really think I like Philly a lot in the National League just because of their pitching staff, and I think their lineup's really good. I think Seattle is a huge sleeper in the AL because if they make the playoffs, they'll be underdogs in series against the really good teams like the Yankees, but on any given game, they'll be very live to win because of how good whatever pitcher they're throwing out is.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. By the way, a lot of people agreeing with you in chat about Povich. So it looks like we got some people in chat that are with you. And then Clayton, what's up, Clayton, said, you give an ROI boost to Povich and you get tons of Bybee with him. He's talking about the Sims tool, of course. Jordan, Clayton, what boost did you give to Povich? Jordan, go in the ROI boost, boost Povich by like 15%, and then unfavored the lineups, favored him again, and see what happens. So go in and boost him by like 15%. I'm just curious to see what type of results we get there. Einstein and Loppy, go ahead.
I was gonna say, here's the thing though, like I only like Povich if he's gonna be really, really low owned. I'm actually not sure how this shakes out. Sometimes with these young guys, it's hard to project ownership because they've never been on a slate before. And people always love the shiny new toy. And I really think people
very low owned.
Like 6% owned that we're showing.
Like the lowest owned pitcher on the slate.
Okay. In that case, then I do like him just for the ownership. But again, your point about Bybee and Woo is just very well taken. And I think that will slip a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, maybe. I think if Povich was like 6,300, I think it'd be a lot different than being like, why am I paying for him when I can pay for these other guys? That's just how we'll see. We'll see.
No, you're probably right. You're probably right there. I'm not sure it's 6%, but I think how you said it, he'll be the lowest owned pitcher. Makes sense.
I don't think it's 60. But you know, the funny thing is there's no teams with particularly high totals. Like Cleveland's at 4.5. Toronto's second highest at 4.3. Baltimore 3.9. Kansas City 3.7. Seattle 4.1. Oakland 3.6. Not a lot of high totals on this slate at all.
No, not even a little bit. So yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say Jordan just boosted him. So like that would be a way if you wanted to get some without killing yourself if you're playing a lot of lineups, right? Of course, metaphorically speaking, don't do that. Looking at exposures, now they're a lot flatter between Singer, Bybee, Kikuchi, Sears, and Povich. It's still crazy to me that we're only getting that much Brian Woo, but when I see things like that, it will make me, I'm not going to completely change the way I think, but if that is the case, then I go, all right, well, maybe I should be looking elsewhere. You know what I mean? Sometimes like I said with Hogan Harris on that last day slate, there's something to that. By the way, Joey Prindle, shout out to Joey Prindle, Matt. You'll see it on the screen in a second. He hit us up on Twitter. Stochastic, thank you for the Sims and awesome content. What a night. $60,000. You know the big 555 the other day?
Yep.
Joey Prindle.
Oh, I saw that. Yep.
Yeah, man. Repping the Stochastic avatar. $60,000, second place. I love it when this happens and you see that like the Sims and the content has helped people. I mean, that's just a good feeling. And second place in that contest. And you know, there's a ton of sharp players in there too. No doubt about it. Like 60K, Joey Prindle, shout out, man. Great stuff. And if you guys ever want to check out the Sims for yourself, you already know. Link in the description and in the chat. You can do a week, a month. By the way, the Sims package doesn't get you just the Sims. It gets you all of that, all of our highest end content tools, but also top stacks tool, top pitchers tool, top hitters tool, ownership, player projections, premium Discord, lineup generator, across the board. Every single MLB tool we have, including the contest generator, the lineup sims, the post-contest simulator where you can review all of the lineups and see what it looks like. And then the late swap, all of that included a week or a month. But check it out, man. We'd love to have you guys and say hi in Discord. If you ever have questions, hit us up. We want to help you out. But Joey, 60K, monster win from the other day. That's amazing, man. Congrats. Any other thoughts on bats here before we move on to the main slate?
No, I don't think so. 3-game slate. So it's almost like everything becomes more pertinent to talk about. So we could keep going on, but I think we kind of got the gist of it out.
All right. Marcus Allen, as much as I watch this show and how much y'all help me mentally, I'm now rocking the Stochastic avatar. Thanks, guys. Yeah. There we go. There we go. We've got someone that converted, and I love it. Dude, why would you not rock it right now? Why would you not rock it with the new Hall of Fame thing? Like you have ample opportunity to win hundreds of dollars worth of stuff. First time winner, free month of a single sports Sims package, $200 value. Second month, second time winner, another free month plus a free week of another sport. And then third time win, you're getting $550 all access sims for the entirety of the month. And any win over 20K, a free custom ring with your name, Stochastic Hall of Fame on it, and your win with an engraved faceplate on a spinning display. Who doesn't want that? An engraved spinning display case. Stuff's awesome, man. We're going out of our way to hopefully make this better for you guys. But if you go to stochastic.com/HOF, it's in the description too. You can download any of the new avatars too. Jordan, show them 6. I just put a new one up. 6 beautiful new avatars. You want to freshen things up. They're pretty sweet, man. Stochastic.com/HOF. Check it out, baby. Anyway, let's go to the main slate. So way different slate, Matt. Way different slate. If you guys haven't looked at the main slate yet, suggest you stick around for this one, because pitching, first of all, you have Sonny Gray going up against Colorado. I don't have to look at, I haven't even looked at ownership yet. I haven't looked at the top pitchers tool. I can tell you without hesitation, if I'm wrong here, I'll be shocked, that Sonny Gray is far and away the highest owned pitcher with the highest top 2 pitcher probability on the slate.
You are correct.
Okay. It has to be against Colorado. I saw their implied total. I saw the other pitchers. There's some good ones. Tanner Houck's got the White Sox, but Sonny Gray against the Colorado Rockies, good luck getting away from that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know what else there is to really say about it. Very good pitcher, upper echelon pitcher, not in that top group, but probably in that second group. Been very good this year for St. Louis. Gets one of, if not the best matchup in baseball at home. He's not even 10K. So yeah, Sonny Gray looks like the best pitcher we've seen on any slate in a minute, to be honest. I know we've had some good ones recently, but if we stacked up every pitcher all week, I think Sonny Gray might be the SB1 there. So
yeah,
just a phenomenal spot, price tag, good pitcher, all that. I do like Tanner Houck a lot too. He's also been good, not as good as Gray, and he's more expensive. Similar spot on the road, so maybe discount him a little bit, but getting to Houck and Gray seems like the ideal way to build, except there are expensive bats that, you obviously won't be able to get to. So Gray is the priority, but Houck is the clear second option on this slate in my eyes.
I agree. The only thing that kind of concerns me a little bit is that crazy wind blowing, like almost right now, they've got 18-mile-per-hour winds blowing out the center field. I know this is not, I know it's the Chicago, it's not the Cubs. I know it's not Wrigley, but 18-mile-per-hour winds blowing out is something else. Like that's still a lot of wind, no matter where you are.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's definitely the punch in the gut to Houck here, but again, he's just very good, and I still like the spot. So maybe you discount him a little bit there, and he is very expensive. So yeah, playing Gray and Houck together going to be difficult enough. Sure, people are going to do it, but that does open up the Hunter Green, Pablo Lopez, Ronaldo Lopez range, I guess.
And to your point, I mean, even though it knocks him a little bit there, still a very low implied total for the White Sox. Like, despite the win and everything, you're still looking at, like, if you were to go into a sports book and you wanted to bet the run total for the White Sox right now, and you were betting under 3.5, it's juiced to minus 155. So, that's still really low. It gives me a lot more confidence and comfortability looking at someone like Tanner Houck when you see such a low total there. I mean, that's really low. Someone said in chat they think that he has a hunch that Sonny Gray is going to get knocked around today. It's baseball. Could happen. Thomas said that. It's baseball. Anything could happen, but God, dude, this Colorado team is trash. Like they're so bad.
Frankie Montas just almost threw a perfect game against them in Coors. Yeah, like they'll have their spots where they get to pitchers, certainly good pitchers, but I mean, like it's not going to happen often. And tonight's not the night I would play it. Like, I mean, I don't really see other than just a hunch what there is to like about Colorado here.
Oh no, there's nothing to like about him outside of having, a hunch. But um Clayton said first thing that jumped out to me in that St. Louis game was Quantrill. Quantrill's been good. I mean, been good. Not gonna take he's by the way, Clayton, he's getting 16%. Quantrill's actually, relatively popular. I don't hate it either.
I think that he's the logical way to go. If you want to spend up on some bats and still use Sonny Gray. Right now he's projected to be one of the highest owned pitchers on the slate. And I get it. There aren't really many cheap options you feel good about. I don't love it, but I'm fine with it here. And he's cheap enough where it works.
Yeah, well, we're never going to love kind of an unexciting pitcher like Quantrill, right? 18% strikeout rate. All of the numbers just kind of like scream bleh. But
yep,
he's also been good when it comes to run prevention. He's cheap. Look, when you have a 3.99 xERA, a 3.84 ERA, pretty good when you pitch half your games at Coors Field. So I don't want to take anything away from him. And some of these stats are like independent of location. But if you were to take Quantrill, let's see, on the road this year, I don't think his K rate's really that much different. I'm pulling it up right now. No, 17.6, like essentially the same K rate at home and on the road. He's basically the same pitcher at Coors and on the road. Weird.
He's been a lot better recently too. He might not have been great in his last start, but aside from that, his underlying numbers were showing major negative regression like 3 or 4 starts ago, and now they're not. So he's been a lot better. He's been not great, but he's been fine. He's been borderline good. And yeah, there aren't any other really cheap options. It's kind of like JP Sears on the day slate.
Maybe you can talk some sense into me here. There is a spot that I don't really understand. I have a lot of respect for Pablo Lopez. I think he's a fantastic pitcher. We all know he is. At Yankee Stadium against the Yankees getting 20%, I'm having a tough time with that one, man. I know he's not overly expensive. The Yankees are the best team in baseball through the first 2+ months. No, yeah, 2+ months against right-handed pitching. They're also one of the best teams in baseball at home. There are so many things about this matchup that I do not like for Pablo Lopez.
Yeah, same. I struggle to see him actually coming in with this ownership. He was projected to be around this in his last start against Houston, I think it was. He didn't come anywhere close to that. He was like half as owned as he was projected. He hasn't been great recently, aside from the last start where he was good. He got blown up a couple times in a row. People were off him last start. People will not want to play him against the Yankees here, in my eyes. Maybe the Sims push him more than I'm projecting right now. But even like last night against Chris Paddock, we had the Yankees projected to be one of the lowest owned stacks on the board. Judge and Soto were like the 2 highest owned hitters in the 254 entry max. So like people are keen on how good the Yankees are. I think that's going to scare a lot of people away from Lopez. I'm with you at this ownership right now. Just let me get up to Houck, probably like Hunter Green more. But I do think that at the end of the day, he'll be the lowest owned of this group. I think that, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if Stroman's higher owned than Lopez here.
Do you like Stroman better than Lopez?
I think you could make cases for it. I think that if you ask me who has the safer floor, it's certainly Stroman. But
oh yeah,
at 8,400, not really. I just think there's other good pitchers I'd rather, choose from here. I probably like Lopez more, just considering he's a much better fantasy pitcher. I know he had struggled a bit. His ERA is sitting around 4. His expected is 2.99. He doesn't walk anyone. He strikes out a lot of guys. So, yeah, I think I like Lopez more than you do, just because for my money, I think he's, if not the best overall pitcher on the slate, right behind Sonny Gray. And coming into the season, everyone would have had him as the top guy. So I think there's something to be said there. It's not like he's been bad this year, just a couple blips in the radar.
Yeah. Just a brutal spot. But he's good.
Yeah, he just got teed off by the Yankees like a couple starts ago. That was one of his bad starts. Yeah.
Yeah, he only gave up 3 runs, but 10 hits. Yeah, he's been all over the map this year. When he's good, he's great. When he's bad, he's terrible. What about Walker Buehler? Are we buying into Walker Buehler being back?
Yes and no. Like, I think that he's he had that one really good start at home against Cincinnati. Other than that, he's just been okay. I think that's who he is right now. Any one start wouldn't surprise to see him be really good, and he's in a good matchup today in Pittsburgh. But I don't think you can click on him and expect the Walker Buehler of old right now, and he's pricey.
Jordan, yeah, you ran the Sims for this, or you're about to? You did already. Okay, well, Sonny Gray, Quantrill's our second highest owned right now. Hunter Green. All right, so we are essentially with the field on Pablo Lopez right now. Okay. I will say that's his spot in Cincinnati. Like, this is, when it starts warming up, this park gets real friendly. I'm looking at the weather here right now, Matt. Winds blowing out to left center at 10 miles per hour, 81 degrees at first pitch. Oof. That's always a little bit concerning. Cincinnati has a 5-1 run total against the sod, 4.6 for the Cubs against Hunter Green. I feel like in a better park, I would like these guys a whole lot more. I'm surprised that Cincinnati's 5.1 run implied total against the sod.
Yeah, same. Green's been really good though. His strikeout stuff is down. He had been a 30+K% guy in years past, sitting at about 26% right now. But he's really limiting hard contact. He's got an under 3 expected ERA. So based on results this year, he's right up there with the Gray and Lopez's of the world, maybe minus the strikeout upside a little bit. You don't feel as good about him as you do Gray, obviously, in the ballpark and in this spot, but he's also a lot cheaper than Gray and Houck. So while on some ways I think that he's getting too much love, on the other hand, I don't, because he's been really good and he's cheap for who he is.
Assad's been good too. I mean, he's 23% K rate, 0.8. He's done a good job of limiting power. I don't want to roster him today. The only reason I bring it up is because this Cincinnati team strikes out at such an alarming clip against right-handed pitching, but probably not worth it to get to him. There's just so much pitching on this slate. Aside from that, though, at the bottom, Ronaldo Lopez has Washington. The one thing I was talking with Josh about last week when Lopez was getting the start was the fact that they had been limiting his pitching or his pitch count significantly. And, a lot of guys go through 6 innings with 4 hits and 1 run, just stellar, like he did last time at 87 pitches, and they come back out for 1 more, but not him. 87, 70, 83, 71 over his last 4 starts. Probably why Lopez isn't getting a lot of love today. He's just, I think they really are trying to limit him right now.
It's so hard to get to him over to the guys up top. Gray obviously in its own category, even Houck 700 more. I think Hunter Green looks better. So I don't, Lopez's floor is probably very high here, but I don't think his ceiling is, and he's expensive.
Einsteinium isn't Isn't Assad a ground ball pitcher? I mean, he's not a fly ball pitcher, but 44% ground balls, 40% fly balls. I wouldn't classify him as either, really.
Yeah, I
Any other
definitely
pit? Go
I
ahead.
like the Cincy side over Assad for sure, which is I think where you were.
Yeah, sure. Any other spots worth targeting as far as arms go today? Like Sonny Gray and Tanner obviously stand out. Um, I was surprised that Hunter Green was getting as much ownership as he is, 27. But I think when your strikeout stuff is as good as his is, and he's $8,200, that's just gonna, I would rather take the savings on him over Lopez, honestly, and just hope he can get me like 8 or 9 Ks. Quantrill, Stroman, I have a tough time with. This is the type of spot Stroman could go like 8 scoreless innings with 5 Ks and just be dominant. You know what I mean? Have one of those like Max Fried type not the 13 strikeout Fried performance, but those patented Max Fried performances where he goes like 8 innings on 90 pitches, allows 1 run, strikes out 5, but just is excellent and gets the win. I mean,
Yeah, kind of
Stroman
like how
has that in
Stroman,
him.
yeah, he just did it against Seattle and San
Yeah,
Diego.
yeah. Like that's the type of pitcher Stroman is. You need him to work deep into a game. Yeah, he did it against Seattle, right? 7 1/3, 1 run, 6 Ks. Didn't get the win. He gets the win there. You got a 28 DraftKings point game. You know what I mean? Like those are the type of games that when you get that out of him, it looks really, really good. Matter of fact, he just did it against Minnesota. He just only had 2 strikeouts. Like he went 6 scoreless with 2 Ks, got the win. Was fine, but you need more than that. I don't hate Stroman. I never hate Stroman at that price. I just never love him. He's just there.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
I don't think we're really getting to any of him in the Sims though. Jordan, is there any of him or do we have 0% Marcus Stroman? Looks like 0. Yeah. Are you talking to me or am I like, is there any, do we have any Stroman if you scroll down, or are those the only pictures on this? 5%. Okay. Not a lot. Any other pitches you want to talk about, Matt?
I don't think it's necessary, no.
How about the bats on a slate like this? Because unlike the early slate, you do have some high totals. Dodgers against Bailey Falter, who hasn't even been that bad. 5.7 run total. Boston against Woodford, 5.6. Winds again, 18 mph winds blowing out the center there. Atlanta, Chicago, Cincinnati. We have all of them with 5+ run implied totals today.
Yeah, a lot of really good spots here. The Braves seem to be sucking me in like they have on a ton of slates recently. But yeah, we talked about the pitchers that are in play. We skipped over like over half the slate because a lot of these pitchers aren't good. So a bunch of these offenses are going to look good. The Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Braves, all 3 of those teams look very, very good in my eyes.
What? I mean, when are the Braves going to figure it out?
Yeah, I mean, maybe never, maybe tonight. It's one of those things that like they're still so good. We know that they've got a ton of pedigree, but they just haven't put it together last year or this year. It seems like a lot of these guys had career years last year and they haven't put it together this year. They're not getting the ownership anymore, and they're certainly not tonight against a pitcher they just faced. It's more of an ownership thing for me right now than it is like, oh, just chanting the Braves.
Yeah, it's just so weird. Like they'll pop a couple times. You'll get a few of those games where you go, they're back, and then they just go into hibernation again. It's pretty wild, man. And sure, losing Acuna is a huge deal, but there's still so many good bats. I don't know, man. I mean, Boston to me stands out as just a phenomenal stack today. I really like this Boston stack. with the weather and all of that. Like, I think it's going to be very difficult to get away from them. You're going up against Jake Woodford. I mean, is there anything redeeming about Jake Woodford at this point?
No, he's probably the worst pitcher on both slates combined. White Sox just have no one to throw out there, so they're throwing out guys like Woodford, and they have a horrendous bullpen. I'm with you. The Red Sox look amazing here, and they're cheap. So this is a team you can probably roster Houck and Sonny Gray and still get to most of these guys. They look very, very good here. I'm with you.
Yeah. I mean, look, last year he had a 50% ground ball rate, which is great in about 47 and almost 48 innings, but he had a 23% home run to fly ball rate. He gave up over 2 home runs per 9. Like, there's some real potential to give up, multiple home runs on a slate like this. I like Boston more than I like the Dodgers, but the field does as well. They're obviously popular on a slate like this. And the reason being that Boston has the second highest, they're basically tied for the highest top stack probability on this slate. But they also have the highest value score of any team on this slate. How the hell do you get away from that? We have them with the highest stack score too. I mean, the tools love them.
Yeah. Like between the Dodgers, the Braves, and the Red Sox, our top 3 stacks, the only 3 in double digits. The Red Sox are facing by far the worst pitcher, and they've been better than the Braves. Obviously, they haven't been as good as the Dodgers, but the problem with the Dodgers is the top of their lineup is so expensive. Their value score isn't bad because the bottom of the lineup is pretty cheap, but that's not the part of the Dodgers lineup you want to stack. So, like, stacking Betts, Ohtani, Freeman, Smith, Teoscar, it's going to cost you a pretty penny. And I just, you're going to have to sacrifice a lot to get there. So that's why they're coming in under-owned. I think Atlanta, at least their top bats, probably also comes in pretty low-owned. We're showing them coming in with leverage. Just because also, like, I know we're showing the Yankees with minimal ownership, but Judge and Soto will get love because they do every slate now.
Right. It is funny that you talk about, like, when you look at pricing on a team, you have to look at it. You have to look at, like, where the salary is coming from, where the discounts, where the expensive ones are coming from. When you look at Boston, they've got a few guys that are clearly expensive, but then you just have all these 3K guys mixed in throughout the entire lineup.
Yeah, it makes them a really, really easy team to stack. And Gray and Houck, like, playing them together is hard, but it's not like they're both 11K where it'd be impossible. Like,
Right.
They're both under 10K. You're still not spending 20 combined for your 2 pitchers, which is doable.
I'm not going to Colorado. I'm not going to Washington. Yankees against Lopez is interesting, but the problem there is you're not. So, okay, you're going, you want to stack the Yankees against a good pitcher. You know that they're going to be low owned. But like you said, Judge and Soto probably still get ownership. Also, this team, like, do I really want to pay a premium? As much as I don't love Lopez, do I want to pay a premium for Yankee bats against a guy that's still one of the better arms in the league? That's just a really tough spot to get to for me. Both sides, really.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I'm more on the Lopez side because I always feel like good pitching is better than good hitting, but I think you're right on with both points. Like, it's just a really, really tough spot for both sides. That also, though, like, maybe even though both sides are going to get some love, ultimately, maybe one of the sides should get more love, because this is also a spot where Lopez is really good. If he's on his game, I'm sure he's going to have a good game here. If he's not, the Yankees are really good. So there is inherent upside in both sides. I'll say that.
No doubt. It's just you're paying a lot for the Yankees.
True.
Man, Hunter Green has been really good. I was just looking at some stuff like, hey, is it worth looking at this Cubs team in a good park for hitters? I mean, he's only in 40 and a third innings. He's only allowed 3 home runs at Great American Ballpark this year. That's remarkable. That
Yeah,
is really good.
he's really kept the hard contact down. Man, I can't believe how much love St. Louis is getting.
Wow, against Quantrill.
Yeah, that's outrageous to me.
Yeah, I don't love that. I don't love that at all. I mean, they're discounted, sure. Any other stacks? Like
No,
Minnesota against Stroman, I'm not really interested in. You see anything else?
no, but I do see like with the St. Louis ownership, I won't be surprised that again when the slate actually locks that a lot of that ownership just flocks to Boston. Boston really stands out. Great weather, pretty good ballpark, awful pitcher. They're cheap. I mean, what's not to like about Boston? I'm kind of with you here.
For sure, dude. By the way, have you seen the power numbers that Tanner Houck has allowed this year?
Mm-mm.
He has a point one home run per nine.
That's nuts.
He's allowed one home run in 78 innings. One home run in 78 innings.
You
Yo,
don't, that's crazy.
right? That's okay. Does it last? No, but that is unbelievable.
Yeah, I never even, I mean, I wonder what the lowest home run rate is for a starter all season. Like a starter with X amount of innings, you know?
Yeah, but there's a lot of guys out there that don't give up power, but I mean, this has to be far and away the best in the league right now.
Oh, has to be.
Right? Has to be. Like among even semi-qualified pitchers, it has to be. Let's see. Let's see who the next closest is. All right. The next closest is all right. So these are all like relievers that haven't given up home runs. That's the problem. Yeah. And then guys that have only thrown like 20 innings. So he's got to be number one once you get to as like, are there any starters that haven't allowed any home runs yet? Probably not. Not that this is even important, but that's crazy, crazy number, man. Makes me like him even more if the winds are blowing out and he's just preventing any hard contact whatsoever. Yeah, I'll have some more of that for sure. Absolutely. If you had to pick your favorite stacks for this slate, like for me, it's going to be Boston first. I know they're owned, but we still have them with positive leverage. I'm going to go Boston. You guys aren't going to like me for this. I'm going Atlanta second. And then the Dodgers. What about you?
I'm gonna go Boston first, just because. Well, sometimes I like to get away from stacks like this that I think are going to be obviously popular and they're cheap. The top end pitching just really stands out. So I'm with you on Boston one. And it's the Dodgers and Braves 2 and 3 for me, whatever order you want to put them in. I think the Dodgers look better because they're better, but the Braves are probably easier to get to. So kind of a tie.
Yeah. By the way, Christopher Sanchez is the next closest. He's allowed one home run in 66 in the third innings.
Hmm.
How about that?
I would
Pretty
not
cool.
have had him on my bingo card.
No. Top pitchers. I mean, it's got to be Gray and Houck at the top, right? So then the question becomes, who's your 3 and 4?
For me, it's going to be Green 3, Lopez 4. I'm going to go the exact order we have them.
Really? All right. Yeah, I'll go Green. And then a savings salary relief, I'll go Cal Quantrill in there. He's been good enough. There's
Yeah, it makes
there's a
sense.
lot of expensive bats on this slate. A lot.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. All right. Before you guys go, a couple things. First off, if you're not on Underdog yet, you want to get in on those $12 million or was it $17 million in best ball prizes? They're happening now already. Daily drafts for NBA, for MLB, for NH, all of that. The pick'em, you're looking for pick'em up to 20x your entry fee, $250 deposit bonus, 50% match, instant bonus up to $250. You get it instantly. You use that link in the description or in chat. John, who's on the early slate? We discussed that earlier. If you want to go back to the beginning of the show, yeah, check out Underdog if you haven't. Also, tonight, NBA game 1 of the finals, Boston Celtics, Dallas Mavericks. Game 1, 8:30. We got live before lock. Then going live on playback for the first half. I think I'm going to join the fellas. It should be fun. And I've done those playback streams for the finals for like 3 years now with Josh. So I'm going to join. It's free. It's awesome. We'll be hanging out. MLB live before lock for the main slate tonight as well. So we got you covered, guys. As always, across the board. Appreciate you hanging out. Follow Matt at Fantasy Tips Matt, me at Laffy_D on the Twitters. Remember, you ever want to check out the Sims, anything else we got, rock that avatar. Links are down in the description. We'll see you back here for the next one. Peace.